Oh, thank you.
We're gonna throw out some more hats. Who wants hats? Yes, sir.
How you doing, Charlie? I want to start by saying that I admire you being here. I admire your ability, because not a lot of right-wingers would actually, or anybody really that talks about politics in general. My name is Zaki, by the way, Zaki Mandu. A lot of people know me around campus here. So I want to start, my question to you is about the state of Israel, right? And I know that you are against sending aid to a lot of other countries. Like, for example, you're against sending money to Ukraine, right? Which both of us would agree on that. I would agree with you. But my issue is, it comes when there's a little bit of an inconsistency in terms of the state of Israel, because you're in favor of if I'm not mistaken, right? You are.
Yes, no, that's correct. Jesus resurrected from the dead in Israel, not Ukraine.
Is America a theocracy?
Well, no, we were founded on Christian values. You're asking my advocacy.
Okay,
so my advocacy is rooted in a belief that Israel is a special country for a special purpose and a special place.
So let's take the theological aspect out of that. I'm talking about U.S. policy, U.S. foreign policy of supporting the state.
Fair enough, but I do actually think outside of that, it is in the U.S. policy interest to make sure that Mohammedans don't control the state of Israel.
Okay, so my question to you is, what legitimizes the state of Israel's genocide against Palestinians, right?
Well,
do you? I don't think you consider it's a genocide, right?
Well, no, let's just slow down a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Are you? I think you're a Christian, right?
No, I'm actually. You've probably never heard of my people before.
Zoroastrianism?
No, we are actually called the Mendatian people.
Oh, tell me about it.
We are a small ethno-religious minority group. I don't know how this ties into the discussion, but
well, it actually gives me more context
sure.
to see if we can find common ground. So it does tie into the discussion. So,
well, I'm pretty sure I know where you're going with it too, by the way. But like,
no,
but we are called.
You can guess.
Sure, so we're called the Mendatian people. We're a Semitic ethno-religious minority group indigenous to the Jordan River Valley as well. So
I learned something new today.
Yeah,
so.
You could search it up. I could write it down for you.
I'm not doubting you. I just thank you for informing, because you're wearing a cross, so I was wondering, maybe I'm...
I mean, we're followers of John the Baptist, so...
Oh, I am familiar. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Interesting. John the Baptizer, yeah.
So
no, I have actually heard about your people before. Okay.
Right.
So let's put that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
So the what is a genocide?
Well, what would your definition of genocide be? Because I think my definition is the targeted massacre of masses of people without any reason to do so. And I think when you drop a 2,000-pound bomb on a hospital with women and children inside, that is the direct definition of a genocidal act. Would you agree with that?
Well, first of all, that did not happen the way you categorized
it. That didn't happen.
Secondly, but I want to make sure we can find common ground.
Okay.
Was October 7th a genocide?
Was what happened before October? Yeah, I would say yes. I would say yes.
So,
what about what happened?
Hamas committed genocide on October 7th.
Yes. Hamas is a terrorist organization.
Okay, good. So I just want to make sure that if you are going to use the genocide label, then it should be applied to Hamas first and foremost.
But also, just 1 second though. I want to make a clarification here as well, because you can't say that the oppressor is not genocidal and that the oppressed is the one that's being genocidal. When you have a resistance organization, which is a terrorist organization, like Hamas, for example, let's take for example.
I reject oppressor-oppressed dynamics completely.
You do not believe that Israel.
I believe in strong and weak. I do not believe in oppressor-oppressed. That's a left-wing postmodernist framing. I reject it.
Okay, what's your evidence to reject that? How is Israel not oppressing Palestinians, forcing women to give birth at checkpoints, forcing Palestinians to drive on separate roads?
So we're talking about two different things. We're talking about the Palestinian Authority or Hamas. Those are two technically separate organizations.
Sure.
Hamas is in Gaza, of which was democratically elected. The people of Gaza wanted to be controlled by terrorists. Correct?
Well,
they elected those savages.
But Charlie, you have to understand.
No, yes or no? Did they elect those savages?
Yes, but you have to understand, when you put in an open air prison.
Hold on, time out. So these are. I'm not going to allow you to keep on saying.
Okay.
If it's an open air prison, why did the population keep on increasing over the last 15 years?
Well, there are people from other parts of Palestine that were forcibly removed from their homes and put in Gaza.
No, it's because their birth rate continued to go up.
No, that's not true.
Secondly,
that's not true.
If it is an open air prison, and there is a quote unquote blockade, even though that's not true, there were workers that would go in.
That's not true. Like, you can't just make up things.
I'm finishing my sentence.
Sure.
Is it true that not before October 7th, tens of thousands of workers would go from Judea, Samaria into the interior of Israel to work and factories?
By Israeli regulation, okay? They can't freely go in and out.
Let me ask you a question, very important. Can an Israeli citizen go into the West Bank?
Sometimes, yes.
No,
Actually, that's not true.
Hold on, your head will get cut off if you're an Israeli citizen and you go into
That's
Hebron.
not true.
If you go onto the streets, I've been it, I've seen it. You know
Okay.
Hebron very well.
Okay.
If you go into the 97% controlled of Arab-controlled Hebron as an Israeli citizen wearing a yarmulke,
Sure.
what would happen?
I disagree with the premise of what you're saying, but let's go back to
No,
the
no,
main
no, no,
argument.
no, it's a
Can we
very
go
important
back to-
question. Hold on, if
All right.
I walk into Nablus,
Charlie,
the cap, no,
that's
don't
not my
stop interrupting
question,
me.
though. But that's
No.
not my question.
I'm getting towards some moral
Okay.
framing
All right.
because unfortunately on a college campus they only hear one side of this issue, which is Israel bad, Israel genocide. And I'm trying to further contextualize it because they've been force-fed one side of the argument for the last year and a half. If a Jew, an Israeli citizen, walked into the capital of Nablus, what would happen to them?
What is your question?
They would be murdered. If a Muslim walks
That's
into
not true.
Jerusalem,
That's not
if
true.
a Muslim walks into Jerusalem, they're
Yeah.
allowed to go to their holy sites.
That's not true.
No, no, seriously. I want
Okay,
you to,
what about, okay, have you not heard of the raids on the Al-Aqsa Mosque that had happened for years before October
First of
7th?
all,
And what about the children?
Hold on, it's not the Alaska Mosque, it's the Temple Mount. The Muslims
sure.
took over
Okay.
our holy site.
It
So
doesn't
let's
matter.
let's make
It
sure
doesn't-
we're morally
okay.
clear. Actually,
Okay,
it really
right now
does
there's
matter.
a mosque there.
Okay.
Is there not a mosque there?
Yes, it's a temporary mosque because it's
Temporary,
it's
would you be in
an
favor
art-
of demolishing that
it's an-
mosque?
I mean, like, I wouldn't be sad if a mosque got demolished, honestly. I'm not a
Okay.
Muslim, I'm a
Okay.
Christian. I believe in
Alright.
Jesus, not
If that's
Muhammad.
your
So
point, if that's your point,
I'm not
that's
advocating
your
for
point.
it, but do I believe
Wait, you just
Muslim?
said-
Do I believe Muslims take over Christian holy sites? Yes, they've done it all
Okay.
throughout time. Do they take over Jewish holy sites? Yes.
Right.
Here, let me just.
My people have been persecuted by Muslims as well. That's not my
Okay,
question to you.
I don't wish persecution upon your people, but I do.
Okay.
So going back to you're saying genocide.
Right.
Genocide.
Yes.
So the intentional killing.
Right.
If that is true, why does Israel give medical support to the people of Gaza? Why do they warn the people of Gaza before they strike? And why have they gone out of their way to save as many civilians as possible? And finally, why does Hamas use hospitals and schools and nurseries,
As
women
human
and children
shields.
as human shields?
Right.
Why?
Okay,
So
all right.
explain to the audience why.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the stuff that you said, okay? Let's take a look at the stuff that you said, all right? So first of all, you have to understand, okay, when there is a country that for 75 years has illegally occupied your lands, okay? I know you're laughing, but that's what the
No, it's
history is.
comical. It's not their land.
Okay, who was living there?
The Canaanites originally.
Yes, which are modern day Palestinians genetically
Well, not
Adam.
necessarily.
What?
I mean,
What do you mean
but
not
hold on.
necessarily?
Let's
What are
say
you
time
talking
out. You know
about?
whose land it is? Who can take it and
It's
defend
all
it?
Arab land, okay?
Wait,
so-
hold on. Time out.
Yeah.
Do you believe in self-determination?
It depends.
So
I don't believe in a Kurdish state, for
if it
example.
was the Muslims' land, why can't they win it back?
Why do you
Oh wait,
frame-
they can't because
Charlie, wait,
the
wait.
Jews fought them
Charlie,
out of the land.
Charlie, why do you frame this as a Muslim versus Jewish conflict? That's
Because
not what
it's
about.
explicitly a Muslim and
It's
Jewish
not.
conflict.
That's how misinformed you are about this issue.
Well, okay, in the Hamas charter, it
Why
says
do you
we
think
exist.
Hamas- Okay, hold on, wait a minute.
What? 'Cause-
Give me 1 second, just 1 second, okay? Okay.
Is it
let's
all over
take-
the place, or is it just
No,
me?
no, it's just you. It's just you. It's just you. Guarantee you. All right. When you take a look at, Habibi. Let's take for example. Okay. Habibi. Let's take for example. Right. There's no Hamas, no October 7th, no paragliding, no music festivals. Right. And let's name this place the West Bank. Okay. Let's call this place the West Bank.
You want to call Gaza the West Bank?
No, a place without Hamas. Right. Is the West Bank.
Okay, but the West Bank is in a separately geographic
So,
separate part.
exactly. So let's take this example of the West Bank. On October 6th in the West Bank was the deadliest year for Palestinian children in the West Bank. No Hamas, no paragliding, no terrorism, no music festivals. What is your excuse or what is your defense to supply the state of Israel weapons, funds to go and commit genocide against people in the West Bank?
Stop
It's
saying
forced evictions.
genocide. You know
but
it's
that
not
is my point.
genocide.
You haven't proven that
It
point
is a
wrong.
war. You know why? Because
A war between who?
Hold on. If they were committing
Okay.
genocide, they're doing a really bad job of it. If
Not
they
really.
wanted
Not
to,
really.
if they wanted to kill more Gazans, why would they just not drop thermonuclear weapons and end it
Okay.
once and for
Let's
all?
talk about the
They are
West Bank.
fighting the most humane war that we have seen
Drop it.
of the last decade, which is precision combat warfare in
It's
urban
not.
areas.
It's
I
not.
hope you understand how difficult this war is for the IDF to fight.
Yeah, why don't
They'll
they
see
go
a
in a ground
civilian
invasion?
that will wave at them, and all of a sudden, as they go by it, that civilian will take out a gun and shoot at them.
Okay.
These are liars. These are deceiters. They
What
don't
about
wear
the West
uniforms.
Bank?
They
Could you
don't
answer
declare
the
themselves.
question?
They have broken every single violation of the Geneva Compact. The
But Israel
Hamas is.
hasn't.
But Israel hasn't.
Honestly,
No?
of course,
What?
at times they're
Alright.
going to do things that we would not support or like. That's called war. And we must have the
Okay.
maturity and the sophistication to know that Israel did not invite this war.
It's not
On one of
a
their
war.
holiest days,
Okay.
1,300 civilians were slaughtered at the hands
How many civilians were
of
killed in
Hamas.
Palestine? What about Palestine? Well, before that, before October 7th,
I-
how many
I mean,
Palestinians?
how many? It
Yeah.
depends on the context and the
No, no,
circumstance.
no, okay.
Hold on. Do you have an example of the IDF? Yes
Yeah.
or no?
All right.
Of the IDF going out of their way
Yes.
to go slaughter and
Yes.
cut off the heads?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
To cut off
Yes.
the heads?
Actually, yes.
Really?
Worse than that. Worse than that.
Wow.
Much worse than that.
Tell me
Charlie-
more. Why don't you go submit that
Sure.
claim to the International Court? I'd
There
love
are
to see it.
there are claims
So
actually.
you have,
in
you
the
have
international-
evidence of the IDF going and cutting off
Yes.
heads.
Yes.
Cutting
Yes.
off heads
Yes.
of Palestinian
Bombing,
children.
absolutely obliterating children.
No, no,
Killing
I-
journalists.
time
What
out.
are you talking about, Charlie? Okay, look, hold on. Hold on. All right, all right. Why is the IC? Okay,
You
what
are,
about
this is
South
your
Africa's
entire
case?
shtick is a fabrication. Because
so
here's what we
wait,
here's
so-
what we do have.
wait.
We have evidence of
Wait.
Hamas with GoPro cameras
sure. What
going
about-
after civilians.
All right, so
Women.
South Africa's case, in your opinion, in the International Criminal Court is bogus. Completely.
Which case?
You don't know about the International Criminal Court case against the State of Israel right now.
I think it's I think it's complete rubbish.
Complete rubbish.
Yes.
You know more than the ICC investigators.
Yeah, I think the ICC is
prosecutors
wrong.
and the, so is this just you're making this up, or like based on evidence, or what? Like I don't understand.
There's a lot of motives and incentives to be against the state of Israel.
Right, which is to look at factual evidence.
It's
and
easy to
everyone
hate
is
the
wrong.
Jews.
Okay.
It's easy to hate the Jews.
Who said anything about hating Jews?
It's
here,
the Jewish
right?
homeland. Half the world's Jews
Right.
live in
So,
Israel.
what I'm asking you
They are
is-
one and the same.
Okay, what I'm asking you is what legitimizes that claim in a non-theological sense. Okay,
Self-determination.
So you cannot just move to a country, right? You're against immigration, right? Don't you believe that
Hold
that's
on.
like an invasion, right, to the U.S.? So why would you be in favor of people from Europe, mostly Ashkenazi Jews that are?
There's a lot of Sephardic too.
Right, I'm not arguing against
Which are
that.
indigenous to the
and
land.
also Mizrahi as well. But I'm not arguing against that. What I'm telling you is that you never answered to my question about the West Bank, which is there's no Hamas there, and you
Oh,
didn't-
that's right. The answer: the Palestinian Authority is a terrorist organization.
the Palestinian Authority is a terrorist organization.
Mahmoud
in
Abbas
Europe.
is a terrorist. Correct.
Okay, and the state of Israel is not.
Of course not.
How do you equate those two? I don't understand.
Okay, let
that.
me tell you why. If I go to
Yeah.
downtown Jerusalem,
Right.
I can see where Jesus ministered in the Garden of Gethsemane.
What do you mean by
okay,
Jesus?
I got
no
6
Jesus.
words.
No Jesus, though. Right?
Can I finish?
No Jesus.
Why no Jesus?
No Jesus. We're talking about international law, not
It
theology.
plays into what I'm saying.
How does Jesus play into international law?
You're not letting me finish.
Right. Go ahead. I'm
So
sorry.
you
go
say,
ahead.
what is the moral difference? In Israel,
No, that's not my. I'm sorry, but that's not my. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
you said, what's the difference? Why is Israel not a terrorist organization?
I'm sorry. Let him continue. I'm sorry.
You said, why is Israel not a terrorist organization?
Right.
Correct?
Why is the state of Israel not a terrorist state? Yeah.
Well, by definition, they have elections, they respect private property, and they only fight defensive wars.
Ah.
There is not an example of Israel going out of their way to declare war on one of their neighbors unless they are first provoked. If there is, tell me. Show me the example.
Okay. So
show me of
have you-
Israel fighting a non-defensive
Sure.
war.
Have you ever heard of the Nakba? Have you ever heard of the Nakba? 1948, when 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their homes.
Oh, you
without-
mean the creation of the state of Israel?
that was part of the creation of the state. Listen, was America built on sin?
Partially was also
Yeah, right.
built on divine
Yeah, right.
brilliance. So the foundation of Israel was a little bit of both
built on
too.
sin. Was built
No,
on a
not
terrorist
just
sin.
sin. No, hold on. First of all, it was the right of self-determination. And
What do you mean
remember,
self- no, wait.
remember the context. You right now are criticizing groups of Jews that just experienced the Holocaust, and they want to have the right of
The
return.
Palestinians have
And-
a right of return. The Palestinians.
Okay, so happy to go back and just. I'm curious about this one final thing. What is a Palestinian?
A Palestinian is somebody who is indigenous to the Jordan River Valley.
So the Jews.
Some.
Are the Jews not from Judea and Samaria?
Not all. Not all. That's not true. Okay, Ashkenazi Jews are from Europe.
Yes.
There is no genetic. There is no genetic connection between Ashkenazi Jews and the state of Israel.
the reason why this is hard is
Okay.
because Judaism is more than just a race. It is also a religion and a creed and a people.
But that's not my
right?
question to you. Is I'm telling you in a genetic sense.
I got it. We're not going to just do genetics because Palestinians
Why not?
genetically aren't actually a whole group of things. They're Jordanian, they're Syrian,
but there's no
they're
kind of-
Lebanese.
there's not really a distinction between Jordanians and
But
Palestinians.
the Palestinian
in a
identity is
genetic
largely a new creation. That's fine. I have nothing against new creations. I just
Okay.
want to know like what are the boundaries of like what that identity group is.
And also, I agree with you. Before the Sykes-Picot Agreement, there was no sort of division of the Middle East. It was all united.
do you think-
So, do you support the Sykes-Picot Agreement?
I don't know enough about it.
You don't know after World War I, when the Middle East was divided between the French and the British?
Don't know enough. I'm not going to talk about things I don't know.
Okay, I would look into the Sykes-Picot Agreement if I were you, and I would educate myself a little bit about the history of the Middle East. Okay, because
Yeah, should I just get
right,
list,
right. But listen, Charlie. By the way, I don't mean this to be like a very negative experience, because I think I admire you very much. I think that you have a lot of courage to come here and talk to people. But I think you're a little bit misinformed about the state of Israel. Okay,
If,
you have to understand. Like you have a double standard when it comes to your definition of terrorism. That's the problem.
Israel fights wars and Hamas commits terrorism. You cannot.
Right,
Let me ask you. Here's a really good example. Exactly.
And you never answered to the
Here's
West
a
Bank. by the
phenomenal
way.
example.
You never answered to the West Bank. By
Here's
the
a
way.
phenomenal example.
Right.
Terrorists take hostages, right?
Israel does too.
Oh, really? How does?
What about-
you mean they
just-
take prisoners of war of combatants?
13-year-old child.
Where
that was
where
released
has
just 2 days ago?
where has Israel actually taken civilians?
All the time.
No,
all
that's
the fucking time. What are you
complete
talking about?
rubbish,
All right,
man.
listen. Let me tell you.
They go into nurseries and take
Yes.
hostages.
Yes, they do. Yes.
6-month-old babies.
There was a child who was
There's
taken.
no reasoning with you because it's just
No,
it's like
wait.
pathologically untrue.
No. There was not a 13-year-old child who was taken 9 years ago who was just released by the state of Israel a few days. A 13-year-old child is not a criminal. That's a civilian, Charlie. Okay. So the problem is that again, you're misinformed on a lot of the things, and I would really encourage you to look a little bit deeper, because Israel does take children as hostages. Israel does put them in prison without due process, without any sort of court of law system. So what you're saying is just simply, it's not true.
You have examples of Israel taking
Yes.
thousands of hostages.
I told you just
No, I
2 days.
just-
If I know his
yeah.
name, I would tell you his name.
I'll
Exactly.
be honest, I don't believe you.
Okay, do more research. Don't believe me. Be skeptical of what I'm saying. That's
Oh, I
fine. But do your own research. Do your own research and look into this, because
Do you
frankly, there's a lot of
and-
things that you're not
Do you
aware
think
of.
which one do you think is the good actor, Israel or Hamas?
There's no good actor in either of those. That's not true.
That's so
Why do I have to? What? No, why
morally
do I have to pick
confused.
one?
I mean, it's just
Why would I support? Okay.
the moral confusion
Do you know
there
who
is
the-
disturbing.
Do you know who the PLFP are?
The Palestinian Liberation
The
Force.
Popular Front for the Liberation of
Okay.
Palestine. That, I would say, is the organization that I most closely would support. Okay? So if you're gonna take like something, don't put words in my mouth, or don't take something out of context here, right? I would support.
I mean, look,
an
I
organization
support
like the PLF.
I support civilization, not barbarism.
I agree.
Israel is a
Israel is the
beachhead.
most barbaric state to ever exist on the face of this nation in modern history. In the 21st century, there has not been a more barbaric
More so
state.
than North Korea.
In the 21st century, yes.
More so
North
than-
Korea has not committed genocide against people in the 21st century.
Oh no, they have against their own citizenry.
Okay.
I mean, more so than
not
the
in the
Chinese,
same sense- not in
more
the
so
same
than the
sense-
Chinese Communist Party.
Not in the same sense as the state of Israel. Israel is the most terrorist state in the 21st century, and the United States, with its invasion of Iraq, would also be a terrorist action.
that
Would you
is-
agree with that or no?
No, it's a
You're
remarkable.
against the invasion of Iraq.
Yes,
Charlie.
I would not say it was terroristic though.
It was not.
It was wrong. It was immoral.
It was wrong and immoral, but not
The
terroristic.
threshold of terrorism is the indiscriminate,
Yeah.
without caring,
didn't
butchery
happen
of
in Iraq.
civilians.
That didn't happen in
No,
Iraq. That doesn't
actually, the
happen.
veterans that are here helping protect us, they did not go to Baghdad and start shooting at civilians.
Some did.
They went out of their.
Some did.
You know what?
Some did.
It's an outrageous claim.
Some did.
Our own service members went out of their way
Yeah.
to actually help civilians, and then have those civilians knife them in the back after
There
they
were
lied to
1
them.
million civilians that
Again,
were killed in Iraq, Charlie.
Yes.
1 million people.
A lot of that was
Okay.
displacement
So-
and famine. Again, so
okay.
I just
Okay,
so
but back
you,
to-
wait, I want to be clear. You
Yeah.
think the United States is a terrorist state then?
No. I never
just said that it was
I
an
said
act of terrorism.
I said the invasion of Iraq was an act of terror. That's a different thing than calling-
the
okay.
moral
But listen,
confusion is
listen,
remarkable.
Listen, let me tell you, Charlie. And again, I do want to let you know that I appreciate your time being here again, because I do admire your ability to sit here. So we're.
Thank you very much.
just give me like 2 seconds.
We
Right?
got we lost the audience here. I will say one last thing. Next year in Jerusalem. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. I would love to. If Israel doesn't kill me first.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Thank you.